Hey everybody, and welcome to Tears Tulle Talk, a podcast that's dedicated to celebrating women who are showing up and reconnecting with their magic from within the struggles or darkness of real life. I'm so excited to have Laura Hollick with us today. She wore the skirt in week 2, and I would love for you to tell our listeners and viewers just a little bit more about yourself, Laura.
And now, is this my Tears and Tulles moment, or is this me as a person?
This is who you are, and then we will go into the Tears and Tulle.
Because it's all interconnected. So I am a soul artist, and I'm someone who I feel my whole life is my art. So I'm always creating art, but then I've become the art as well. And I've developed the soul art certification. I guide people around the world to connect with their essence and express and embody it in the world.
Thank you. I think it's interesting. We just interviewed so anyone who's just tuning in now and doesn't know what Tears and Tulle is, it started with a rainbow tulle skirt that travels to the homes of 52 women in 52 weeks across the United States and Canada. Each woman pairing that skirt with something black to show her ability to connect with her color from within her struggles. And that has evolved, and there are now tribes and trailblazers of women who are wearing skirts of their own and sharing their own stories. And I find it so interesting that one of the trailblazers we interviewed, her podcast hasn't aired yet, actually brought you up as the person that is inspiring her right now in the world. And so that kind of just went for full circle for me with you explaining who you are, because we actually have other Tears and Tulle members that are connecting with your magic throughout this process. So I just wanted to mention that. And we start every single podcast with an Tears and Tulle moment. So this is our even when, especially then moments of life. And I know that we chatted a little bit about this beforehand. So I would love to hear your even when, especially then Tears and Tulle moment.
Mm-hmm. So I love myself, even when I'm not perfect, and especially when I find myself in a moment of challenge.
Yes, especially then. I love that. I think that's so important to remember, because we can really play this comparison game, I think, sometimes where we might not be connecting with our own magic. And thank you. That's perfect. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so Laura, you wore the skirt in week 2, so you were the second participant. The skirt traveled to Canada to visit you, and the response when you posted your photos and your words about what that experience meant to you were received by so many women in our Tears and Tulle community, and so many people that were watching the project at the time. And even the dress designer, the skirt designer, said, "Oh my gosh, it's like she's swimming in the tulle. It looks like she's actually swimming." So the photos themselves tell a story and are so stunning and beautiful. But I would love to hear what your experience was like. And we pair it with something dark. So you had your hair coming around that looked like you were in these waves of tulle. I would love to hear your experience with the skirt.
For sure. So working with rainbow is something that I do a lot of. I love working with rainbow. And so I actually had a lot of tulle as well. So the skirt arrived, this big box, and I opened it up like a little kid, like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with this? And I had a bunch of ideas, but then when I was really listening to what do I want to communicate? And I feel like we're at a place in history where it's like the dawn of the new paradigm. And part of the new paradigm is that we are empowered in being a woman, meaning our intuition, our creativity, being able to dream. And it's not just all about the productivity, but just the beingness of a human. And these are like feminine qualities. And so I thought, I want to create almost like a dream-like situation where we can dream a new dream. And I actually was wearing black underneath, almost like a compost just so that we can like recycle the old and like create a new. But then I guess my hair is what showed up as the dark on that. And it was just about a new dream for women. And I just wanted to be swimming in this kind of sea of a, possibility of a magical world where we have the safety to kind of drop down, let go, let our guard go, and let our guard down, so that we can remember in many ways who we really are to then create a new reality.
Wow. Yes. Oh my gosh, I am loving that you were wearing black underneath all of that colorful tulle. That is such a cool concept. And I love that we all just got like a behind the scenes moment of what that was like for you. Gosh, right now in the world, right this very second, I have 4 daughters and 2 sons. And I think it's important for all of them to realize that there's growth happening. And I think that your pictures showed that expanding out into the world. And I'm just so happy that you said yes to the project. That's usually my next question. Why did you say yes to this project? But I think that you explained a lot of it with what you just mentioned.
Add a little more to that as well, because
yes, I'd love to hear.
right now, especially when there's the virtual realm, there's lots of things that people can do, telesummits and all kinds of stuff. And it's amazing. It's amazing what we can have access to. And yet as a creative person, it's like, I have to choose where I'm going to put my energy and what am I going to say yes to and what not to. And when I received your invitation to be part of the project, I was just so excited that you were thinking differently. So it was kind of like there was an idea you wanted to explore, and then, sending this skirt out to people all over around the world, and then having them create. So there was that creative component that really intrigued me, but also just, thinking outside of the box rather than just kind of like, okay, this is what I'm going to do to reach a lot of people. It just felt like I could feel your own unique creative voice coming through in the way that you structured this. And I think that captured the core of the project, and that pulled me in, and it gave space for my own creativity to play, and also just be part of an idea and see how different people wanted to be part of that idea for themselves. So all of those elements, it was an immediate yes, and I was just thrilled to be part of it. I am thrilled to be part of it.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. The skirt, I think we're on house 21 right now. And so it's almost at that halfway mark. And we just found out that it is going to go around for a season 2. And so there'll be fabric added to the original skirt. And I love that you say it's something different, because I feel like in today's world, like we see all the perfect pictures online of people doing things, and the skirt is getting some wear and tear while it's out. And I asked the designer, I said, do you think we should send it, should I send it back to you? Should you fix it up a little and add some more, add some new pieces to it? And she basically said, no, I think it's on a journey, and that's part of the Tears and Tulle of it. So I love what you said about it being different and you feeling sort of instantly connected to it, because it does explore the shadows and the color, I think, that we all have within us, instead of just this perfect picture of what, we sometimes see in social media and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So I'm curious, I'm wondering, what Laura Hollick wanted to be when she was a little girl, and if that is connected to what you're doing in the world right now. I was just talking to my husband before we came on live, and you make such magic with your art, and you really bring people into a new world and a new way of thinking about things. And I think that was why I was drawn to you in the first place, just to get to step into that world for a moment and then explore whatever came up for me in that space. So I think it's different for everybody, but I'm curious, little you and now present you, how those two are connected in some way. I'm guessing they are.
I'm sure. So when I was a little girl, I was so imaginative. And I think that my imagination came out of actually being in a very challenging situation. I was not feeling connected in my family environment. It was very isolating and very hard. And so I found a home for myself in my imagination. So I always felt like when I grew up, I would just be able to live there in my imagination. Like this place that I felt was like this beautiful home with unicorns and mermaids and waterfalls and rainbows. And so I just thought, well, when I grow up, I'll live there. And so for me, art became the way to create my imagination. So being an artist, it isn't so much that I thought I was going to be an artist, but being an artist has enabled me to live out the imagination and create a home for myself on the planet, on Earth. And so I always knew that that's what I would do. I would in some way create a home for myself that was beautiful. So, and being an artist is the vehicle in which enabled me to do that.
Yes, I have followed your page for quite some time now, Instagram and Facebook, and a lot of your photos I think are taken by Kevin. I've noticed throughout the years,
Yeah.
And they're all so different. They're all so unique. I'm wondering who might inspire you in the world right now to continue to bring that magic out. Who do you look to for guidance or support?
I think really my mentor is my higher self. So I'm always tuning into that, that energy and getting guidance from that. And then of course, everything that happens in life, like I'm so inspired by people being themselves. Like when I see and it's not just like that they said that they're being themselves, but when I feel the frequency of their soul coming through a challenge, sometimes, and I find beauty in that when I see someone, like even if they're very ill, let's say as an example, and yet they've come to a soul clarity and you can just feel that kind of like sparkle through them. And it just brings me to tears, Or there was one woman, Anna, I don't remember her last name, but she's an animal communicator. And she was speaking with animals and I could just feel this sort of like soul frequency, like higher self energy. And it just moves me to tears. And so anytime I witness somebody going through whatever they need to go through to have the courage to let that frequency through them, that is pure inspiration to me. And it makes me feel like I'm home on the planet, like it feels like, oh, like I recognize that person. I understand that feels like a frequency that I understand. And it inspires me. So I'm not always looking to kind of who do I want to model, but more of that sense of connection when I feel a person being themselves. And it gives me that much more courage to go even further into my own path.
Oh, I love that. I love that, connecting with other people's vulnerability to inspire us. Like, I think that's...
And courage, vulnerability and strength are actually, when those two come together, that's power. Like when someone has to stretch in some capacity to let their truth come through, that's vulnerability and strength, and that's power. So I look, or I don't, it's not even that I'm looking for it, but when I see it, it's like food for my soul. I'm just like, oh, I love it. And, when I'm like looking through Netflix of what do I want to watch, right? Like I'm looking for things that can kind of fill me with that nutrient of just someone having to go on a journey to become the next version of themselves. And what do they have to move through to do it? What do they have to either release or heal or claim or whatever? I just love watching that. Or even like Olympic level athletes, people who have to like really commit to what they have chosen as their devotion, like, and everything that it takes to do that. Always watching like sports documentaries and stuff like that. People that go for it, that show up. the ones that show up for their life totally, and everything that that includes, because there is challenge, there is pain, and there's beauty, and there's amazing stuff. And it's like having the capacity to experience life with everything that you know, bringing everything that you have to the table. So that's what inspires me. That's what I look for. That's what I like to try to feed my energetic space with, whether it's through media, through watching shows or whatever. I'd like to be fueled by that kind of inspiration.
Wow, that's amazing, Laura. I love that. So someone recently asked what the inspiration behind the Tears Tulle movement was. And I immediately went to the connection I have with my late mom and how I feel her in the wind often, and how I feel like she continues to inspire me. But I also believe that it goes back much, much, much further than her. And it's sort of on this ancestral level where the women who came before me that maybe couldn't connect or couldn't go out in the world with their color, or, you know, felt sort of silenced by their fear. And I'm wondering how you feel about that, like on a larger level. And I hope I'm speaking some kind of language that makes sense, but if you feel that you have this sort of earthy support that comes from those who came before you, if that makes any sense at all. I'm going off script with my questions, sorry, but I'm curious what your answer might be.
Thanks. Great. You know, I think that what we are given the opportunity of now at this time in history is to heal the split between our higher self and humanity. Like that's, you know, and so where did the split first start? And it goes way back. And so I think that when I think about, you know, my own lineage line or ancestors and what they've done before, I definitely am inspired by people, like I said, with different things that I've watched or whatever, people who risked something to press forward with the higher self energy. And so all those people, I see that I have the blessing to be able to kind of stand on their shoulders and do what I can do to take it forward. And yet at the same time, kind of my own lineage line, my own family line, I don't necessarily have like a huge awareness past my great grandparents, but I see more like connection to humanity. So when I look back, it's like, okay, what has shaped humanity? Where are we at now? Who are the ones that have kind of moved it along in the directions I want it to go in, and show my gratitude to them. And then the places where I feel a disconnection, what healing needs to happen to restore so that higher self and humanity actually can exist together. I think that's what the new paradigm is. I don't think that we're meant to live in a split between kind of what we naturally are and then what we do. Like I believe that's meant to be one unified experience. That's life, is unified. And yet we're at the time where we have a lot of healing to do to be able to make it through the portal into the new paradigm. So there's people, when I actually was just writing a list the other day in my life. You know, I could say a few names, but they're not even people that maybe anyone else would know of. They're sort of more private people, like the woman who helped me in my dance career in the beginning, Victoria Slager. There was a woman, Liz Constantinidis, and she was an artist, and she was the first artist I witnessed. I was like, oh, you mean you make your imagination? And I was like, whoa, that's like mind-blowing. You know, these sort of people along the way that demonstrated in some capacity a possibility for me. And then I get to, you know, take in the amount of work they had to do to get that embodiment. I get to receive it. And I feel the way I can honor that, like the work they had to do to get that, their embodiment, and then I just get to witness it and I kind of get it in a second. To honor that, I feel like I have to take it forward. And so that's that, you know, and it is for women especially. We have, when you look back over the thousands of years, we have been seriously suppressed. And
Yes.
is it like, we can't sugarcoat it. It is reality. And if anyone tries to sugarcoat it, it's like, that would be the definition of gaslighting. It is real. That has happened. And so any movement any of us can make on hearing our own creative voice, hearing our inspiration and acting on it, and moving forward to, gathering our courage, honoring our vulnerabilities, but finding our strength, any movement we can make on that is progress. So yeah, there's been a lot of damage done. But yet there's still people along the way that have moved it along. And that's our job now, is to keep that moving along.
Wow. And I think that your Tears Tulle photo represents that. Like, I think that it shows that we are here and change is coming and change is happening. It's not even that we're trying to get somewhere new. We're creating it where we're at right now. So, oh my gosh, that was beautiful, Laura. So I'm curious, what is happening? Where can people find you online, first of all? And then what new things do you have happening in the world right now that you'd like to share?
So a great place to kind of, learn more about what I'm up to and so on would be my website, laurahollick.com. And then there's also Instagram and Facebook. And, if you just type in Laura Hollick, then things will come up. And I am always working on new projects. Let's put it that way. There's so much always going on. And I'll just leave it with that. I am a creator. I'm like, people call me the giant womb, because there's so much like being cooking up all the time. And I guess what I would say is like the overarching thing that I'm always working on, even though there's many projects within it, I'm always working on how to birth and midwife the new paradigm. So I utilize my art skills to do that. I utilize my ability to have intuition and guiding people, guide journeys, creating different courses that help people transition, whether it's a juice cleanse or whether it's learning how to make money from your art. Anything that's going to enable the birth of the new paradigm, for us to move along, to claim our gifts, to claim our beauty, our creativity, our strength, and our vulnerability. I will find a creative way to do that. So there's always new projects popping up, because I'll get the new insight, like, okay, this is how I can now move this along, or this is how I can move it along. But the way to kind of keep track of the projects I'm doing, or if people want to participate or learn more, would be laurahollick.com.
Awesome. Awesome. And I do believe that you are inspiring people, and there's this ripple effect. And I know that the season I received the skirt, someone said to me, "Oh my gosh, your energy. Have you heard of this woman named Laura Hollick?" And I said, no, I hadn't heard of you yet. And so it's interesting now that you've become part of this journey when you really were, in a sense, there from the beginning. So thank you so much for joining us today, for sharing your heart, for sharing your vulnerability, and for letting listeners get a little peek into who you are and what you're up to.
Thank you. Thank you for all the beautiful work you're doing.